There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all I there is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love.
Thank you for that beautiful musical introduction, and welcome to the monthly service of the NAUA, the North American Unitarian Association. We gather here to share some music, some wisdom, and some conversation after the service. Please take a moment to center yourself here in this place and time as I light the chalice. Please light your own chalice at home if you would like. We light this chalice remembering and honoring our own tradition and celebrating the rich diversity of traditions among us. As we search for justice, meaning, and purpose, may we remember that justice, meaning, and purpose live first in deeply listening to one another.
Thank you, Adele. Now we'll hear opening words from Levon.
Okay. This is by Kalidasa. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today well lived makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day.
Thank you, Levon.
Okay.
Now, Joyce Kinnear will share some reflections, and this is a recorded video.
Good morning. Have you ever wondered how you arrived at a place? You didn't remember how you drove there. Perhaps you were driving home from work and you couldn't remember the commute. Or have you woken up and looked in the mirror and thought, what happened? How did I get so old? Does this depress you, or does it make you want to make changes in your life? So many times life changes so slowly around us that we really don't see what is happening. Like a child growing up every day, or our parents getting older, the day-to-day differences are not visible. Then suddenly something happens that makes it obvious while we have not been paying attention. Something has changed. Many grim examples of slow societal change and how people may not notice come from history. For example, imagine the life of a person in Germany in the 1920s and 30s. As little by little rights were taken away, daily life seemed much the same. Each little change was small in comparison to the last. Then suddenly a window is crashed through with a brick, or a police officer shows at your door in the middle of the night, and you wake up and you realize that things have changed in a dangerous way. While slow and creeping changes that happen around most of us in our daily lives are not as dangerous or impactful as those of an authoritarian state taking away our livelihood, still these changes may cause serious issues to our sense of self. The values that we have been taught to cherish may become worn out or no longer agreed upon by society at large. The ways people are seen or expected to act have changed. We may feel out of touch with the people around us, maybe even shunned or canceled. Like a frog in that mythical pot of slowly heating water, we may think that we have not noticed these changes until it was too overwhelming to ignore. This may cause extreme anxiety or depression. Many of us in the NAUA felt that our previous church homes changed in ways that became uncomfortable. Perhaps how we learn to interact with others is now considered passé or even wrong. Possibly the way you learn to speak about or treat others is frowned upon. What seemed normal to you now stands out as different or is called out as bad. Changing yourself may seem to be the preferred answer, but it seems dishonest and wrong. Eventually, we've woken up to the fact that something must change. Something needs to happen. It is important in these situations that when we feel lost, that we stop and assess ourselves and make positive steps forward in the direction we want to go. A small non-spiritual example from my life is that a few years ago I knew no Spanish other than to order food at a Mexican restaurant. When walking through the farmers market in Hayward, the voices around me were like an incomprehensible wave of words. I had no understanding of them. When we moved to Panama, life was a struggle and frightening at times. Everything in the culture and working through life seemed different, and my communication skills were those of a toddler. After getting uncomfortable enough, I eventually took stock of this rising temperature of discomfort in my life and analyzed what would make things better. I signed up for Spanish classes and took them every week for 5 years. Little seemed to change at first, but slowly I realized that I was able to understand the speech around me. Even at walking through the market, I could hear what people next to me were saying and understand it. So after making this change and hopping out of the stew of my discomfort, the difference in perspective on my life, on who I am, where I want to go, and what the people around me are like, has been phenomenal. Stopping to realize what needs to be changed, making a positive emotional step, physical emotional step forward is important. Whatever and however life's changes creep up on you, it is time to notice what is happening and take positive action. What you do from here will impact the rest of your life. Don't let yourself continue to stew in this slowly increasing discomfort of your spiritual home or society at large. Hop out of the pot and look around you. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to go from here? Thank you.
Grieve not your heart for want of place, nor yearn for easy praise. But afflict yourself some task to do, and well employ your days. From wise and foolish, or from I, we should all try to learn, for one can show us how to live, the other what to spurn. Be fair to people when they err, when good your pleasure show, their faults be quick to understand, in judging them be slow. But this above all else obey, it is the best of goals. What you would wish not unto you, do not to other souls.
And now we'll hear from Bob Meyerson, who has a talk on bullfrogs of all things. Bob, I think you're muted.
That'll be better. Thank you, Doug, for that wonderful music. Are you smarter than a bullfrog? I've been told, and I believe it to be true, that if one puts a frog into a cold pot of water and gradually heats it up, the frog will not notice the change in temperature and will remain seemingly comfortable until the boiling water kills him. Had that hapless frog been placed into a pan of already boiling water, I'm quite certain it would have made every effort to get out. But gradual conditioning did him in. His sudden death was really not so sudden after all. One might not initially think that this is natural to a frog, would not have a counterpart we of the human species, but I disagree. So why even bring it up? Well, I think there is a subtle parallel in our human species. The heat is gradually being turned up every minute of every day. Television, political thought, novel ideas about what we should eat, say, and think. Those political and social icons do this by beginning small and ramping it up to the point that they can successfully alter large segments of the population. This isn't always unhealthy. We want to be kept informed, but how we are informed makes a difference. I grew up during World War II. No TV. My parents' generation relied on radio and newspapers for information. And of course, during that time of war, our government had a not so subtle hand in determining just how the news was reported. And listening and watching, this impressionable child was implanted with ideas and stereotypes that lingered and frankly were turned around largely by those same methods of gradual indoctrination. I like to think that my own sense of fairness and justice undid those negative ideas, but it wasn't that alone. Germans, Italians, and especially the Japanese people were vilified and stereotyped, reduced to subhuman status. Interestingly enough, I note that during that time, the Germans, Japanese, and Italians were our forever enemies. Our allies were the Chinese and the Russians. I'm happy to tell you that not only did my better self, but the post-war media force helped to undo those stereotypes. Of course, now our forever enemies are the Chinese and the Russians. Germany and Japan are our forever loyal allies. Something to think about. Common sense was a freeing concept. The vicious stereotypes have, I believe, mostly gone, but I think it unwise to forget and to deny that they ever existed and how they got there. And again, how gradual conditioning played a large role in putting them there. And it is gradual conditioning which rendered them unacceptable to those who believe that little or no progress in social, especially race relations, has progressed. I point to this 12-year-old boy watching his family's 10-inch black and white TV and seeing Black and Asians depicted only as buffoons and characters of scorn, to today's TV where minorities are depicted as an equal part of human reality. I point especially to the commercials. Ad agencies have one goal, and that is to make money for their clients. If depicting Black and white people as equals was offending potential consumers, these things could never happen. Yes, the world still has a long way to go, but please spare me the idea that we haven't made substantial progress in the last 50 years. I've watched it, and I've been a part of enlightenment. We Unitarians have some unique challenges in addition to the many faced by the population as a whole. I was introduced to Unitarian and Universalist theology as a teenager, but it wasn't until 2001 that my wife and I formally joined the religion. I was mostly attracted to the concept of a bottom-up as opposed to a top-down faith. The individual, me, would be free to practice this faith as my conscience dictated. Freedom of thought and speech, not just speech with which you agree. Now, let me tell you, those with all the traditional top-down religions, creeds, in their long-term have something to offer that we do not offer. They have a long-time eternal retirement plan for people who believe. Some veteran UUs expressed feelings that the UUA was attempting to convert it into a top-down home office religion. Even in 2001, there was warning signs. Shortly after my joining the local UU church, I was approached by a long-term member. I've been noticing a switch in emphasis, he said. There's been a gradual effort for those folks in Boston to move from our traditional UU individual bottom-up faith to a top-down structure where the individual must take the tenets of our faith from above. So what it seemed like a radical departure from our understanding of UUism just a few weeks ago was a gradual conditioning for years from the UUA in Boston. While seemingly sudden, the shameful treatment of Reverend Todd Eckloff and the heavy-handed recent outcome at the General Assembly UUA were not sudden, not at all. One cannot help fostering resentment over the UUA's recent changes, but while it is wise to understand, it is also time to sharpen and hone what we are offering as members of the NAUA. We need to be more than just anti-UUA. That is not a positive identity upon which to build. We must establish who we are in a positive way. We should never forget our history, and the UUA is part of it. But it is essential that we establish what NAUA is for now and into the future. Just as I caution people to never erase America's sad history of slavery and usurpation of indigenous peoples' heritage, we understand that recognizing it doesn't mean we glorify it. Those of us here are the ones who realized that the water was getting dangerously hot and have jumped out of the pot. I have no doubt as time goes on, others will do the same. We must offer some positive reasons why the NAUA is the logical place for them. Who are we? Being anti-UUA is not an identity. We must show to others our positive goals, not just what caused us to become a new force in the world. The UUA is of our past, and they will, excuse me, they will do what they will do. We need to do what we need to do to present NAUA as a positive place to further our goals, to keep Unitarianism a viable force in the world. If we don't do that, we are destined to fail. If we do that, we will be a positive influence on human civilization. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Much appreciated. And now we'll have some music from Doug.
Storm clouds pass and silence come.
And now Levon has some words for us.
There we
You're
go.
muted, Levon.
There, okay.
Yeah.
These are by Paul Robeson. Sorrow will one day turn to joy. All that breaks the heart and oppresses the soul will one day give place to peace and understanding, and everyone will be free.
Thank you, Levon. Adele?
So if you lit your chalice with me this morning, feel free to extinguish it as I extinguish the chalice. As we extinguish the flame on our chalice, we ignite it inside ourselves. Our commitment to our mission and to one another is an unquenchable flame. Let us remember that we are not alone until we light this chalice the next time.
Thanks, Adele. And then we have music, Pure Imagination.
The background there.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look and you'll see into your imagination. We'll begin with a spin, traveling in the world of my creation. What we see will defy explanation. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to do it. Want to change the world, there's nothing to it. There is no life I know to compare with your imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to do it. Want to change the world, there's nothing to it. There is no life I know to compare with your imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to
Thanks, Doug. That was great. So I've got a few announcements. As we talked, well, tomorrow in Spokane service, Todd will talk about when liberalism goes terribly wrong, and you can see that live, or you can usually that'll be archived and available to you. tomorrow at 4 p.m., the Pacific Salishi Fellowship is going to have Peter Morales give a talk, and that'll be at 4 p.m. And the website should be in the chalice. The summit starts in Spokane October 17th, and this is an opportunity to get a early bird discount, and that'll be available until September 1st. So good to get your reservations made now. That, and there's lots of things on the website, book club, discussion groups, all that available, the Liberal Beacon, UU Underworld. While we have a lot of volunteers, we can always use more money. And please consider a donation, especially a recurring one, to move us forward. And you can see all of that on our website.